Hello and welcome to the Forgeborn Finishing School. I'm Casey Kidd and I'll be analyzing Forgeborn battles to help take your game to the next level. I hope you enjoyed learning all about the mobility archetype during the last episode, because we are moving on to our favorite reptilian rumblers, the Dinosaur Synergy. This synergy shows up in several different ways that generally lead itself to an aggressive playstyle, but it's hard to lump them into that only. We are going to get our first look at some pre-release Set 2 Battle for White Fang Pass cards and see some of these awesome dinos in action. This is our first jump into creature type synergy decks, so let's take a minute to define that. We define creature synergy decks as being based around certain cards that provide additional bonuses based on playing or having in play certain creature types, in this case dinosaurs. But keep in mind that there are other creature type synergy decks out there, such as Mage and Scientist, and we'll often find these synergies can be either deck defining or supplementary, but not both. As we go through these cards, I'm going to start with the synergy driving cards, or those that give you the additional bonus for having dinosaurs in some capacity. After that, we will move into synergy enabled cards, which are your dinosaur creatures that gain those benefits. The more synergy driving cards you pack into a deck shift the main win condition into the deck defining category mentioned before. The less synergy driving cards will relegate this synergy into the supplementary role. Jumping straight to the Uteran Rex, also known as the King of the Dinosaurs. He allows your dinosaurs to battle enemy creatures upon entering the field of play, which gives the big-bodied dinosaurs a strong element of control. As he levels up, he is able to buff the dinosaurs prior to battle, ensuring their survival to menace the opponent. My preferred modifier on the King is the Rooted modifier, to keep him in the back row and extend his reign. Next up is the Tempest Rex, who can be a very dominant support piece to your dinosaurs. There are a lot of good modifiers for this dino, but I've chosen to showcase the Inflaming modifier to double down on his support role. This Rex gives your other dinos aggressive on the first level, breakthrough on the second level, and both at level 3. This is an activate ability, so if this dino stays on the board, it continues to make its presence felt. Chant of Umbrook is a spell that gives all of your creatures a substantial amount of attack. With dinos in play, you get to give them breakthrough. The times you feel safe enough to cast this spell can be pretty low. However, even the level 1 version of this can be enough to end the game in latter cycles, making this a really great candidate as an underdrop card. An underdrop card is a card that is purposefully left underleveled, knowing it maintains much of its value in later cycles. The most predominant underdrop candidates are your venerable creatures. Moving on to the Might of the Herd. This gives creatures aggressive, but really shines by buffing up all dinosaurs. This card is similar to Chant of Umbrook. If you don't have the board state to justify its use, it's okay to save for later levels. It's not quite as powerful of an underdrop card as Chant of Umbrook, but still maintains some validity later. I mentioned we would see some of those soon-to-be-released Set 2 cards from the Battle for White Fang Pass. Well, here we are with the Pterodon Nest. This is a new Exalt spell that when played will provide one of your creatures a sizable buff to attack and health. Then it will persist in one of your lanes. The next time you play a dinosaur in that lane, it will get that same sizable buff, and the Pterodon Nest will be destroyed. It's worth noting that though the buff doesn't scale by level, it spreads to your other creatures similar to the Asperian Stale Plate, affecting one dinosaur first, adjacent dinos second, and then all your dinos at level 3. And here we have the new King of Dinosaurs from the Battle for White Fang Pass. In Set 1, we met the Matriarch, and now we get the Patriarch. Much like our previous King, this one provides benefits to incoming dinosaurs, but starts buffing their attack and health from level 1. It does lose some of the control aspect of the Uteran Rex, but tries to overwhelm your opponents by marshalling your big dinos. And now that we have discussed the synergy driving cards, we will get into only a few synergy enabled cards next. But keep in mind, you want an assortment of the above, of course, but you will need some of the synergy enabled cards to make the deck put the synergy from theory into action. The Solemn Razortooth is one of my favorite new dinos. Oftentimes, once a dino deck gets control of the board state, they won't let it go and stampede to victory. However, if you can't get control of the board state, you can find yourself in a struggle. Slamming a 7 attack, 8 health dino on the board in cycle 1 can often put your opponent on the back foot from the beginning of the game and help establish your presence. The Solemn modifying term requires the Razortooth to stand alone initially against your opponent, but that buff pairs well with its base ability of getting additional attack power if the opponent has gained health this turn. With the plethora of life gain abilities in Solforge Fusion, it's fairly common to activate both of this Razortooth's abilities. Here is one of my favorite ace in the hole cards. With a decent stat line at level 1, the Pterodon Mauler is almost never a bad play, but the added ability to replace a creature to gain attack and breakthrough can really catch your opponent off guard. On top of that, it gets to buff one of your other surviving creatures after it damages the opponent, playing really well into the Dinosaur Synergy. The Basher itself is one of my favorite forged creatures, regardless of being a dinosaur. It's a strong base creature with breakthrough, which is a very powerful keyword. Let's add on top of that the pack mechanic, which beefs up our breakthrough creature's attack power based on the amount of creatures we have in play. I think this Basher will be meeting your opponent's life points pretty quickly. I've thrown around the king word quite a bit in this episode already, but here we have the Shard King, a pretty strong dinosaur that gives additional benefit to our other creatures with breakthrough. He also has the added benefit of bringing his own domain into the battlefield when played at level 1. The Shard Cavern is an exalt spell that sits behind one of your lanes to give any creature on your side of the board in that lane breakthrough. If at any time you get a creature with 15 attack in that lane, it can activate to transform into the Surging Cavern, which provides the added benefit of amplifying the damage your creatures from this lane due to your opponent's life points. Jumping into some battlefield analysis, we see some dynamic dinos facing off with a fairly close health total of 22 to 25 in turn 2, cycle 2, opposing Thundersaurs screaming for supremacy. Our first move in this turn is to play the Combat Rex right in front of the opposing Thundersaur. Without any pesky spells, this could ensure it stays alive for up to 2 turns. Remember, this Combat Rex is at level 2 and will immediately buff any incoming dinosaurs and let them battle it out early. The opponent responds with a perfectly timed underdrop in the Leyline Vermin. It has the ability to remove printed abilities from a creature for 1 turn. This card, not being level gated, is what makes it such a dynamic and powerful underdrop. Our friendly neighborhood Batterhide is a great card and a dino to boot, but because of the level gate nature of its ability, it's not a good underdrop like the Leyline Vermin. Using the Vermin, they shut off our Rex's ability and have interjected themselves into our decision cycle, and severely lessened the effectiveness of our next play. We play the Inflaming Rex to buff our Uteran Combat Rex and Thundersaur, without receiving the added benefit of the Combat Rex's printed abilities, which would have allowed us to remove the Camouflage Decayosaur. We then activate it to give our dinosaurs breakthrough, and then use the very versatile Forgeborn ability, Whirlwind, from Korok to give our Combat Rex an additional 4 attack and move him to the outside lane to take on the Decayosaur. The opponent plays a Stout Worm to trade out with the Inflaming Rex, and then uses his Forgeborn ability to bring the Combat Rex into lethal range. Looking back, it may have been a smart move to leave the Rex where it was to destroy his opposing Thundersaur, but remember, I only had the breakthrough for this one crucial turn, and moving the Combat Rex to the outside lane pushed through an additional 12 damage. These are the kind of plays that can seal games and let you know the power of the aggressive mindset. With the match sitting at 22 to 9, the opposing player would most likely have to remove the Thundersaur to survive. Thanks to drawing the Utera Charger during this off-forge turn, it's likely a sealed up game. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has joined in the first 4-part video on aggressive tactics for Solforge Fusion. We have covered an overview, aggro control, mobility, and now the Dinosaur Creature Synergy. Along the way, I've mentioned underdrop, level gated cards, creature type synergies, and many other exciting aspects of this game. I've really enjoyed making this content, and I'm looking forward to starting into some more topics. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for attending this lesson with Forgeborn Finishing School. If you liked this video, please subscribe, comment, and consider donating to our Patreon account. I'm Casey Kidd, and I look forward to our next lesson.